President Trump warning Hamas to severe consequences, saying if the militant group does not disarm, quote, they'll be held to pay. After meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at his home in Florida, responding to Iran's president declaring that Iran is at a full-scale war with the United States, Israel, and Europe, warning that the United States could support another major strike against Iran if Iran rebuilds its missile or nuclear weapons programs. President Trump warning Hamas to severe consequences, saying if the militant group does not disarm, quote, they'll be held to pay. After meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at his home in Florida, responding to Iran's president declaring that Iran is at a full-scale war with the United States, Israel, and Europe, warning that the United States could support another major strike against Iran if Iran rebuilds its missile or nuclear weapons programs. President Trump warning Hamas to severe consequences, saying if the militant group does not disarm, quote, they'll be held to pay. After meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu at his home in Florida, responding to Iran's president declaring that Iran is at a full-scale war with the United States, Israel, and Europe, warning that the United States could support another major strike against Iran if Iran rebuilds its missile or nuclear weapons programs.
What's the worst thing you ever did in the CIA?
We created a germ in a lab and blew it into the atmosphere in San Francisco just to see if anybody would get sick. And lots of people got sick. 11 of them were sick enough to need hospitalization. And it turned out that they all suffered from the same rare respiratory infection. And the doctors are like, where the heck did this come from? Well, the CIA had it in a big tube and they were it into the fog. And they did it in San Francisco because the fog is heavy and they knew that the fog would keep the germ close to the ground where people are breathing it in. And then the CIA said, we should hire a whole bunch of prostitutes and rent a cat house and get these prostitutes to bring Johns back to the cat house, and then we dose them with LSD and see if we can control their minds. These are American citizens. You can't just dose somebody with LSD. Ooh, let's see. Is he going to go crazy? Is he going to kill himself? Is he going to confess his deepest, darkest secrets? What the f is wrong with people?
Actually, the Jetsons don't live in the sky because it's the future. They live there because they can't go down. The surface is still contaminated. And the Flintstones are proof of what happened to those who stayed. Look at the evidence. In 396 episodes, the Jetsons never show what's below the clouds. Never. The cars fly, the buildings float, but no one touches the ground. Actually, in 1987, there was an official crossover. Jetsons and Flintstones met each other. Same timeline, not future and past, the same present. The Jetsons went down once and found what remained of humanity. Notice the technology. Jetsons have television, Flintstones have stone television, Jetsons have telephone. Flintstones have bone telephone. They're the same inventions, one in its original form, the other rebuilt with what was left. Actually, the Jetsons know what happened. That's why Rosie does all the outside work. That's why the children never play outdoors. That's why George panics when something falls. They're afraid of what's below. The most disturbing evidence, the names in bedrock, Flintstone, fire-starting rock, rubble, debris, names of destruction. The Flintstones don't know where they came from. The Jetsons know, and they never told. Actually, the 1987 crossover was buried because it showed the truth. The rich went to the sky. The poor stayed below. George knows. Jane knows. Elroy and Judy will never find out because parents don't tell their children that they left the rest of humanity to die. The Flintstones aren't the past. They're what the Jetsons left behind.
We remain in a very dark winter.
We are facing a very dark winter.
Operation Dark Winter was not a war game. Instead, something more unusual. Dark Winter was a germ game. In 2001, the US military, government, and media launched a mock battle against pathology. The premise was simple. The bioterror organization released a deadly virus into the country, and smallpox is spreading quickly. The US government must now react to contain the outbreak and stop further harm. How did we do? The results were disastrous. Within 48 hours, the government failed its objectives. The loss of human life was high, and when Operation Dark Winter ended 3 days later, a summary of recommendations were given to implement across different levels of government to better prepare in case of a future Dark Winter.
We're about to go into a dark winter. A dark winter.
Operation Dark Winter was the code name for a senior-level bioterrorist attack simulation conducted from June 22-23, 2001. It was designed to carry out a mock version of a covert and widespread smallpox attack on the United States.
We're still facing a very dark winter.
Dark Winter was focused on evaluating the inadequacies of a national emergency response during the use of a biological weapon against the American populace. Dark Winter's simulated scenario involved an initial localized smallpox attack on Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, with additional smallpox attack cases in Georgia and Pennsylvania.
What I call germ games, where you practice, you say, okay, what if a bioterrorist brought smallpox to 10 airports, how would the world respond to that?
The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has approved the first treatment for smallpox, just in case the virus is weaponized in a terror attack.
Vials labeled smallpox found at a lab in Montgomery County. Smallpox is so deadly, only 2 labs in the entire world are allowed to have doses. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. I'm Tracy Davidson.
And I'm Jacqueline London. Those vials were immediately quarantined, and now the Centers for Disease Control and the FBI are investigating.
We are in for a long, dark winter.
Dark Winter has revealed how vulnerable we've become. Our lifestyle, our security, our safety depends on a delicate and unstable economy. We've created a system so complicated that we no longer understand how to control it. Oil, power, shipping, transport. We live in a complex world. And the more complex it gets, the more fragile it becomes. The system is built on a global supply chain that gets things where they're needed, just in time. We've created a house of cards. Remove just one, and everything falls apart. And what's fueling this system?
Money.
Calling a dark winter.
Braced for a dark winter.
The elites use techniques to control the masses. They've done this throughout history. The British used opium to control the Chinese. Most people use guns, power. They used God and religion, a whole host of techniques. But there's one technique that is being used by the elites that no one even thinks about. It's a weapon. It's powerful. It's sound. Now think about it. How many things in your life beep? You get in the car today. How many times does it beep? It beeps when you open the door. It beeps if you don't put on your seatbelt. This is just one sound technique that's designed to control your brain. How do you train a dog? Did you ever hear something called a clicker? You make the sound, click, and then you give the dog a treat. And the dog connects the sound of the click with the treat, or the sound of the click with the penalty, and then it learns. You are controlling the animal. The elites are doing the same thing.
I'm not even going to play around anymore. Hit me with the works. Iraq, Venezuela, go!
We're giving them full opportunity to do it the easy way. And when it doesn't work, we'll do it the hard way.
If we could do things the easy way, that's fine. And if we have to do it the hard way, that's fine too.
Chemical weapons is a threat to the United States.
Fentanyl poses a chemical weapons threat to the United States.
Al-Qaeda terrorists inside Iraq.
Al-Qaeda of our hemisphere.
We can get rid of Saddam. It could really begin to transform the region.
There's an opportunity to transform the entire region.
Bringing freedom and democracy.
Democracy and freedom can serve as a
beacon of hope.
Shock and awe.
So say good night to the bad guy.
Nobody has ever analyzed why the German nation that had more Nobel Prize winners and more famous researchers and scientists and was one of the best educated countries in Europe turn on the Jews. Why did these good Germans turn on the Jews, who had more Jews living amongst them than even percentage-wise living in the United States today?
Last time did you see a black guy like this?
I'm sure. Jews never asked themselves this question.
I'm sure I get the answer from you now.
Yeah, I can give you the answer.
Please.
because they displayed the same voracious ethnocentrism, power-grabbing, influence-peddling, buying of politicians, dominating of the public airwaves and the public media in Germany and so on, that they display in the United States. And I'm not much of a prophet, but that much I can say, based on history, that in the United States, mark my word, you will have Weimar conditions, and you'll have solutions to the Weimar conditions. It will be very similar to what happened in Germany. Whatever the Holocaust war, you've got one in your future. There is no doubt in my mind that if you look at history and the trends in history, the United States is heading in the same direction. And there's only one difference. In the United States, there are enough guns out on the street and enough lawlessness in the public and a revolutionary spirit that founded that republic. This is not Germany, where the only people that had guns were hunters and soldiers and policemen. The United States is armed to the teeth. They have the spirit of revolution in their blood. They are heroes, are people who turned against what they call tyranny and foreign occupiers and so on.